Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for being with me today. We're going to do self-care for lateral hip pain. My name is Chantel, you know this, and as you know, we do this class for what you want to focus on, what is going on in your body, mind, and giving attention to that from a self-care perspective. So somebody brought up lateral hip pain, so we're doing it today. And as always, this always happens to me. I seem to experience exactly in my body what is happening and what is coming up for the next class. It happens literally every time. So today I'll be speaking about my experience with a very recent lateral hip pain and what I did about it and what I'm doing about it. And then I will impart some self-care tools for you as well. So first, we're going to start with distinguishing the areas of the body we're talking about, possible causes for that pain that we're experiencing on the lateral side of the hip. So it could be coming from the hip bone. Absolutely. We'll first say, actually, let us just define lateral hip pain, right? So there's medial and there's lateral. Medial is ever related to the midline of the body, right? And lateral literally meaning the side of the body, what's more on the periphery. So it's going to be the shoulders would be lateral, the hips lateral, knees lateral, midline would be like the spine. So if it's a lateral hip bone, it could be that hip bone. I mean, if it's the lateral hip pain, it could be the bone itself where you're feeling the pain. It could be the joint, right? It can be in that articulation, that ball and socket, right? That allows for movement and articulation. Maybe it's at the level of the joint. It could be a sort of referred pain that you might be experiencing, maybe coming from the hip, maybe coming from another area, but your experience is feeling the pain almost down your leg, maybe even manifesting as like sciatica, right? It could even go into the knees. You could even shoot down even further, whether it's sciatica or not. You could feel it in those areas as well. So that would be referred pain coming from somewhere else. Some people might experience, and I had this as well happen, you might experience pain literally on the front of the bone, right? Like right in the front here. And that's actually part of the pelvis, right? The ilium. So that femur, right, that thigh bone kind of has a ball on the top. That's literally the femur head. And it's going to go into an area, it's ball and socket. So it'll go into the socket. It's called the acetabular, right? So it's going to go in there. But this that it's fitting into, this is part of the pelvis, right? So that ilium, ischium, pubis, that is that sacral bowl, is what that hip bone, that femur head is fitting into. So there might be some kind of wearing away of the tissue. There could be something literally happening at that joint or even at the level of the pelvis. Okay, this is why it becomes very difficult when people go to doctors and say, what's wrong? I feel the pain here. And they're like, oh, it could be many things. It could be coming from the spine. It could be coming from the literal hip, from the bursa, etc. So I'll bring up some maps later in the class so we can look at it from a reflexology perspective, because it's going to be much safer to work on the pelvis, the sacrum, the hip area, the lower back from the feet. I'll show you in the hands too, but it's going to be much stronger in the feet. That's been my experience. Another possibility for hip pain is that it is coming from the spine, right? It's because of a compression, right, on a disc, an inflamed nerve root, literally coming from that lumbar spine or the sacrum. And I will show images later too, so you get an idea of what that looks like from the inside out. If it's coming from there, if it's coming from the sacrum or lumbar area, it could manifest as what is called radicular pain. not like ridiculous, although it can feel ridiculous. It would be like a radiating pain, a radicular, RADIC, right? Radicular pain would be radiating to another part of your body. So sciatica is a perfect example of this. And when someone has a herniated disc, oftentimes they will not feel it at the level of the spine. They won't feel pain in their sacrum. They won't feel pain in their lumbar, but they'll really feel it in their hip or in their thigh. So that's another possible cause, an area that it could be stemming from. And then also lateral hip pain could be coming from like a hip bursitis, right? And we know anything that ends with itis means inflammation. So it's going to be inflammation of a bursa sac, right? So we have those kind of all over our body. We have bursas and other sacs. The patella is one of the larger ones that are just protecting the area, right? So there could be inflammation at the bursa. And then also there can be the two more we'll mention. There could be more of like somatic pain, right? So somatic technically would be anything of or related to muscles, bones, tendons, of or related to the skeletal structure. Also important to recognize that while somatic pain is experienced in those tissues, in those soft tissues, that's where it's manifesting. We want to know, or this is a big part of my practice, I want to know, where is it coming from, right? Is it a physical manifestation deriving from a physical root? Like I banged my hip on the door, I got a bruise, I'm experiencing pain, right? Is it that? Or did it seem to appear suddenly and there was no contact I made? Like what happened? And this is the area that I'm always really interested in, right? When we really sit long enough, just long enough to be able to sit into, where did this come from? I often speak in my classes about the body housing our trauma, right? The body is like the holder of memories, the holder of stuff. And this is actually a scientific fact, right? It's literally stored in parts of our brain and our body, right? So an external blow or pathogen or any kind of damage to the tissue, we know that that causes inflammation. And inflammation is good. It kind of helps and protects the healing process. But stress also causes inflammation. So if my right hip hurts, I'm experiencing pain there. There's inflammation there. There's a healing process taking place there. And most likely, I'm also experiencing worry and fear, confusion, frustration. There's these other emotions that are like circulating in my body, this inflammation through my bloodstream, right? That's also affecting the level of inflammation in my body. When I teach about pain in general, this is a huge piece, is are we able to separate the two? Some people are. I'm still working on it, which is apparently why I teach about it, right? Like, can I just have a physical pain and trust my body and do what needs to be done in order to heal? Or am I going to spin out in some way? And those spin outs happen generally, usually because of money, base need concerns, right? If this happens, I won't be able to do this other thing. And that's going to affect my well-being. It's going to affect my sleep. It's going to affect my relationship with my children. It's going to affect my financial situation, and on and on and on. This is almost like, there could be a whole class on this. How do we just get to that little culprit, right? How can we really be with that differently and tend to that emotional state, so that where the inflammation needs to go can focus just there. Okay. So in this way, pain is sometimes worsened or caused by that inflammation in the body. and then just food for thought to really think about the level of inflammation that might be in our bodies at all times because of possible anxiety or constant stress. All right, there's a certain level of, I talked about this in the last class if you watched it, about anxiety and how I have pretty consistent low level anxiety. That's something that I've been waking up to for years, of how I just didn't even realize. I just thought I was moving so fast through life. I didn't realize there was this underbelly happening where I was like vibrating or moving, or there was like a little me inside ready to fight or to go. I didn't realize that that was there at all times. And the more and more I slow down and learn to really listen and talk to my body, the more I'm aware of that voice, we could call it, or that vibration. And the more I can tend to it, and the more I tend to it, the less the inflammation grows, the more I'm able to be with my body differently. So in this way, this last piece is that inflammation can come from stress. It could come from memories, conscious or unconscious, that are being held in the soft tissue or nerves, right? So it's almost like it could be something could be hanging out there. So if there are the right circumstances that happen on the outside, then it's that part of the body can express itself with a certain type of pain. But so this is why we almost want to get to that underbelly as quickly as possible. So again, those soft tissues, right? They are muscles, tendons, fascia, bursa, ligaments. Those are the soft tissues of the body. And I mentioned before too, it could be coming from the lumbar or sacral area. This is often the case actually with things like a herniated disc. This is possibly what was/is happening with me and my pain, which I'll talk a little bit about today. And I think those were all of them. Yeah. So lucky for me, and I think I've grown to know this about others too, is pain makes us wake up, right? And change something about our lives in hopes of eradicating that pain. It would be great if, and maybe someday it will happen. Maybe someday I will be like, preventative. Before anything happens, I'm going to change this. I do find that the healthier I get, the more I do have those preventative thoughts. But oftentimes I still can be in that cycle of pain happens, now I'm going to change. And I don't know, it's not that it's too bad that it has to be an adverse experience that wakes me up. In some ways, that's part of my journey. And I'm grateful for the pain. It's taught me something, and now I get to move through it differently. So it's just another way in. So for me and my pain, part of my pain, part of my lateral hip pain, had to do with carrying more weight on my body, more weight than my body wanted or needed. This in part had to do with how I eat, how much I love food. I love, sugar and salt and really yummy inflammatory foods. I've been a junk food vegan for a very long time, and junk food vegan isn't necessarily healthy. So, my pain was very intense, and I had an intuitive sense that it had a lot to do in part with what I was putting into my body. So when I talked to my doctor, he couldn't give me an MRI. He was about to leave town, couldn't do the MRI. It's kind of hard to get an MRI, at least in this country sometimes. So I had this, while I'm on the phone with them, I had this feeling. It wasn't even like I got down really quiet and asked, what do I need to do? It was like I was being flooded with this feeling of like, you have to change the way you eat. You have to switch to whole food. You have to go to this clinic that I ended up going to for a water only fast. Every part of me was saying, you have to do this thing. Now, I happen to work at a clinic that does water fasting under doctor's care, and I've been there for 6 years. I've been working there for 6 years, and everything in me was like, you work there. This is going to help with your inflammation. So I did it. I did a water only fast. I fasted on water for 3 days. And then I had an additional 6 days with water and broth. The broth was a plant-based, it was just zucchini and carrot maybe. And then my 10th day was juice. And then I slowly went back to whole food, plant-based, nothing out of a package, no oil, no sugar, no salt. Very radical for someone like me who loves flavor and food. Even though I've been seeing miracles for years, and all these people that come to, it's called True North Health. All the people that come there, I've seen miracles. I've seen people walk and see again. It's like people that are having problems, especially, well, certain problems, you see them really reverse and become healthy again. It's remarkable. My result from doing that is my pain was, when I was there, entirely gone. I could move again, twist again, sit again, sleep on my bad hip again. Whereas before I couldn't sit. Walking felt best, but walking was difficult. I wasn't sleeping at all. So this was almost going on. It was like a month and a half of not being able to sleep or sit. Constant pain, and it was radiating down, and my knees were on fire. It was so painful that it made me make a radical decision to be healthy. So now, so what I realized about that is I was eating a certain way that was not helping the inflammation in my body. And when I shifted that and did a deep cleanse, it helped eradicate that extra inflammation. So now what I'm left with is still an area of the body that I need to strengthen. There are exercises I need to do for my core. There are things I will have to do to help this area. But now, knowing how far I've come because of eradicating all that inflammation, there's no reason for me to have surgery. My body is not in that crisis anymore. It is fully functional, and now it needs strengthening. So food for thought, that's something that we'll offer just to think about inflammation from a dietary perspective. So in this way, and this will lead us into kind of the next piece, is when we're having pain, we can sit inside it and kind of ask what's longing to be heard, right? What needs attention? What do you need? You can do this if you're in no pain, by the way, right? This is like a mindful meditation, just sitting down and just checking in, doing a little body scan with your body and seeing, what do you need today? Where do I feel like I'm holding? I could feel it right now, right? I'm doing something funny with my foot because I have it up on a stool, right? So my left hip is like, there's that little organ, right? Just a second, just taking a second makes it so I can drop into my body. So you could do it at any time. You don't have to be in pain. But when you're in pain, it gives us the opportunity to commune with that area of the body so that we're not trying to push it away, right? We're actually being with the pain. In this way, we get to be with the pain, but also we ask ourselves, how are we eating? How is our exercise? How's our walking? How's our stress level? How are my relationships? How are my relationships with people, strangers, family, community? What is my whole life like? What is imbalance and what's out of balance? Louise Hay, I'll read a little sentence from her later, but she talks about the hips being the epicenter of balance. So if it's like, it's part of what moves us forward when we're literally walking forward. So if our body, our mind, our spiritual, if anything in our world is out of balance, does it then affect, from a more new thought, metaphysical perspective, is it affecting this area, this hip area? Okay. So commune with your pain would be another thing you can do, right? Really looking at every aspect of your life. How's my food? How's my health? How's my relationships? How's my community? And how is my pain? How is my non-pain? How is this body? Commune with the self. Now, this manifests as just decreasing inflammation, right? And how do we decrease inflammation? Let's call out those things, because I've been talking for a while, so I want to hear your voices. How do you decrease inflammation in your body? You could just unmute yourself or write it in the chat. And I'll drink water. Come on, Dawson. I know you're thinking of something. You unmute yourself. Unmute thyself.
Right. I just, I was like, you put hot on, or is it cold?
Ooh,
One of the two, for sure.
lovely. You could alternate, right? Well, and what I love about that is you could tap in and see what you need, but also you're usually going to be told it would be really, really good if you did X or Z. For me, I go towards heat. But heat often is related to inflammation, because if something is inflamed, your skin, the area of that body, would be hot. So actually cold might feel good, but it depends on what's going on. So for me, heat actually works, but cold is a really good option too. Yeah, heat and cold. Perfect. Yay, Dawson. Yeah. What else? What are some other ways to reduce inflammation in your body?
Alternating heat and cold will help increase the blood supply to that area, and that will help eventually decrease inflammation. Same idea, but what did this lady say? I think you put it on for 20 minutes and leave it off for 20 minutes. So cold on for 20 and then off for 20. And your body will naturally heat it up by increasing the blood flow.
I love that. Yeah, blood flow is extreme. Yeah. Good. Yeah. What else? One more. Enid, you just, yeah, you.
I would work my adrenal glands.
You would work your adrenal glands?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So we'll do that in the group. I'll show, well, you know where it is. We'll show it later too for everybody. Absolutely. Because if inflammation is coming from stress, then let's help our little stress buttons.
And cortisol.
Yeah. And adrenals, whenever I teach about the adrenals, we also always do that hypothalamus pituitary, because that HPA axis. Yep. I talk about this in the last class if anybody wants to revisit that, but that's going to be important because that hypothalamus is going to tell the pituitary to tell the adrenals to produce cortisol and epinephrine, right? So we can do it. Perfect. Yeah, great. Yay. Any others come to mind?
Elevation is normally one, right? Where you, if my knee's swelling, I'll lift it and get it over my hips or whatever. So is that a thing you do with hips? Seems like it's hard to do.
Oh, that is hysterical. That's wonderful. Yeah, elevation. Now that's interesting. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've never thought it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know about the answer to that. But yes, when something is feeling pressure, right, it makes sense that to elevate it would lighten it. Yeah. With hips, right. So if I'm sitting and I have pain sitting, it's because I'm on the part of my body that is out of balance. I also learned when I was at the clinic, I was working with one of the doctors there who really looks at the structure of the body, and she goes, stand up straight for me. So I stood up straight, and she was like, that's straight. I'm going to take a picture. She took my phone and took a picture. And I looked at my body going, oh, all this time I thought I had learned how to stand years ago. So I bent my knees a little bit and I felt but I'm so glad she took a picture. And then she put me where I'm supposed to be. She was like, you're actually supposed to be back here on your heels. Then you tip forward it was revolutionary. And I started the beginning of my life, the first 25 years of my life, I was a dancer and in choreography and movement. And I know about the body, but it doesn't matter. Knowing is tricky. What we think we know is tricky. Yeah, totally. Okay, good. Any last bits that you think of before we move on?
Well, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, in this modern age, when we spend hours, right, with our neck stretched down, looking at phones and tablets and what have you, it's putting the spine out of true alignment. And it's putting pressure, well, not necessarily alignment, but it's putting pressure on the spine to stay in that S curve, which ultimately puts pressure on the pelvic girdle, and happy days. There you have it. If you look at a sideways picture of yourself, like you were saying, you know, most of us, our heads are actually tilting forward.
I
don't know whether that falls into your theory.
It is so completely true. Yeah. So often, well, we do reflexologists, when someone says lower back pain, we always work the cervical. Always. I mean, we work the whole spine, but there's a real relationship between that lumbar and cervical, right? Because you have these natural curves, and they could be more or less if someone has more lordosis or kyphosis, more like exaggerated areas. But yeah, if this is happening, that is definitely putting strain back there. And very just a kind of personal note that happened to me when I was fasting. I couldn't be, well, first of all, I couldn't watch anything. I really wanted to watch a movie and I couldn't. It was too stimulating. I learned from the doctors there that when you are cleansing like that, the body becomes quite almost vulnerable, quite sensitive, almost like a return to how we are, right? Because we don't have all this stuff inside. I became very sensitive. I couldn't watch certain things. I tried to watch like Mandalorian. I was like, that's not happening. There's way too much going on. So I had to stop that, right? But I couldn't do that. I couldn't be on my phone. My body wanted to be in alignment. It was a very bizarre thing. My body was seeking alignment as it was resetting my gut. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up the cervical spine. Cool. Yeah. All right. Really good.
Oh, one thing somebody could do if they wanted to elevate their hips is get on an inversion table, which is not always the easiest thing to do, and you kind of tip yourself upside down. My brother had problem with his knees for a long time, and he got one of those, and I forget how long he did it for, but he said it actually decreased the pain in his knees and helped heal.
Beautiful. Yeah. And they're more and more accessible. I won't mention any places to get them, but I have heard that there are ways to get them affordably. We just have to be very mindful of how we do that. Let me just check the chat really quick. Oh, yes. Nadine says recline and elevate. Yes. See, we're on the same page. Oh my gosh, I won't read that aloud. That's hysterical. Nadine said something funny in the chat, but I won't repeat it. Okay, so everybody look. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody and then we'll go on. Oh my goodness. Okay, yes. Okay, and also, like we mentioned, I'll just repeat, ways of reducing inflammation, in addition to everything that was just said and written, limiting certain inflammatory foods, and definitely salt and sugar in processed form. Meditation has been shown to improve immune function and help inflammatory response. Many different studies have been done about this. So awareness is key. Embracing the pain is key, and doing something about it is key, right? If there's something you can do about it, try to just do it. All right. You will be caught. If you fall, you will be caught. And finally, before we move into our next tools, we could say the stuff we've talked about are tools, right? Communing with your pain, talking to it, being aware of what your current state is, how you are physically, emotionally, spiritually, how your community is, all those things, knowing where you are in time and space, and doing something about the inflammation. Also, I just want to say before we move into some other self-care tools, is I wrote in the description of the class the David R. Hawkins quote. I quote him often. I have many a book on him. He's a very interesting cat. And the quote that I put in the description says, one gives away their power to the pill, the power that is really of one's consciousness. I love this quote. And the reason why, in relation to what we're talking about today, is it's what was offered to me. And I have nothing against pills. There are absolutely reasons. I am a fan of Western medicine, Eastern medicine, Northern medicine, Southern medicine. I'm a fan of all the medicines, right? And there's a time and a place for all the things. And I will say that when I was on the phone with the doctor and he said, I can't give you the MRI, I'm leaving for a week. You can take this so many times a day for so many days. Everything in me thought, so you want me to take a pill to reduce my inflammation, an anti-inflammatory pill? It doesn't make, I didn't say this aloud, but in my brain, everything, this is what brought me to the clinic. Everything in me said, it doesn't make sense for me to eat junky food and then take a pill to get rid of the inflammation when I know to my core that if I change the way I'm eating and I don't eat junky, inflammatory, yummy foods, if I can do that, I'm going to reset my body and I'll have no inflammation, and my body will have done it and will be stronger for having done it, instead of me eating crappy and taking a pill to get rid of it. So that's what went on in my brain. So there's that. So we'll say that. Okay. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Right now, I'm still in the groove. I'm eating plant-based, SOS free. I mean, it's like, I have a ton of vital energy. I feel like $1,000,000. I've lost 20 pounds. I mean, I feel great. My body doesn't hurt. My lateral hip pain doesn't hurt. That's insane to me, right? And it was debilitating 6 weeks ago. Okay. So, let's move on to my scope of practice, reflexology. Reflexology, like I said earlier, is a safe and easy way for us to take care of ourselves and others. If something is like radicular pain and it's coming from like a nerve root that's inflamed or something, you're not going to want to work on that area. It's not even for self-care, or even with, you have to be very mindful of who's touching your body if that part of the body is inflamed, especially at the level of the sacroiliac joint, anything stemming from lumbar pelvic region. Reflexology, so safe. We'll be working in the feet, or if you can't reach the feet, you could work in at the level of the wrist too, and I'll show you that. So right now I'm going to move into sharing my screen first to show you the areas that you would work on, and then I'll move back and I'll show you in the hands too, but we will begin there. So, dun, dun, dun. Share screen. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that. All right. So we're right now looking at the lateral view. So, right, the lateral hip pain is on the outside of my thigh, the side of my body, which means it's going to be reflected on the lateral side of my foot. So this is my little, I was just about to point to it. This is my little pinky toe, right? And this is my heel. This is that calcaneus bone, right? That part of the body that the doctor was trying to get me to feel into when I stand. So back through here, we have this whole hip region, which means that, and here we have the sciatic nerve reflexology area. So if we want to be working the hip, we're going to want to work around this. This is called the lateral malleolus. So this is the bone on the outside of the leg, and the very base here, you're going to want to work around it here, and you'll be working down into this area. So I have found when I have hip pain or clients with hip pain, this whole area here will be very, very sensitive. It makes sense. We have some lower lymph groin here, and we're passing through the sciatic nerve reflexology point. And also, if there is an impingement at the level of the piriformis muscle, you might feel it right in the center of your butt, right in the center, below that gluteus maximus. There might be a pain right in the center. It might be that there's an impingement on that nerve. So you really might be feeling it back through here too. People that have a tight or contracted piriformis or psoas, you're really going to see it manifest here. I see that with the psoas that's tight, and back through here with someone who has a piriformis that is tight. So this is the area. Also, what you'll want to do is work, and this is just breaking down the spine, right? So Enid was saying earlier to work the cervical spine. So I always start at the base of that big toe, right? This is the medial aspect now. This is the inside of the foot. So this is your cervical spine, thoracic, lumbar, and then it curves up through here. There are maps that place it way down here. I have found that it up through here is more effective and reflects back to the areas of the body where somebody is experiencing the pain and has been more effective. Down through here, I have been trained and also have experienced it's more like spinal cord down through here. And I'll come down through here for good measure. I know Anna Karina will have the sacrum kind of tip down this way. Mine tips up. So for good measure, you could do it this way and also have it come down a little bit. And if you really want to get into that older map that places the spine down here, do all three, right? It definitely can't hurt. And also this is a line drawing, right? Everybody's foot is different. So you're going to really always be working against the bone, right? So these are the bones here. The spine is going to be bone on bone. So I'm going to be working these reflexology points there. I'm not going to be working into the flesh here. That's going to get me into, let's see, you know, that's going to get me into this stuff, into organs and stuff. We don't need to go there. That's not our focus. Our focus is the spine. And really for me, and where I've felt the most pain is at the level of my lower lumbar and sacrum. So I'm pretty certain I have a herniated disc at the level of probably L4, 5S1. That's where I'm guessing it is, based on just my body experience and also clients that have had confirmed pain or herniated discs in those areas because they have had MRIs, right, and have experienced pain there. So there's where you would work it there. Then for those who cannot reach their feet, this is the hand. So very similar, right? Your cervical spine, again, reflexologists know this, right? Your C1 begins at the level of the base of your nail and C7 ends at the base of your thumb. Thoracic comes through here, and then you have lumbar into sacrum. So this area here, that lateral side of the hand, this is going to be a really important place for you. Also because the hip area is right here too. I'll show you on my hand in a second when we get off from sharing the screen. So for anything ever related to it deriving from the spine, you'll work the entirety of the spine, right? We want to, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, I've been guilty of this too. It's like we want to just go to the symptom. We want to just go to the area where the pain is and work that area, or like, and maybe this is the power of the pill too. We want to take the pill that gets rid of like the problem area, but in actuality, where's it coming from? Where did it begin? Right? Like Edith was saying earlier, did it begin here? Right? I have a slight scoliosis. Has there always been, this part of my body often gets, what's it called? Often will have, oh, I'm forgetting the name right now, but I'll have a torsion there. I'll have a little bit of torque at the level of my sacrum. And then what will happen is one leg will be a little bit longer than the other. And so this area is always a little taxed for me, right? For a long time now. So it makes sense that that's the area that would be ultimately be affected. Then, oh, and then here's the spine. I wanted to show you this from this level. This is your sacrum down here and your pelvis, right? So this is your spine, looking at it just from a different view. This is like if I was looking at the bottom of your feet, right? So this area where the lumbar then fuses into this ilium, pubis, ischium, you know, this whole this whole bony structure that fused together, right? When we came into this world, we can work this area through the bottom of the feet. And if you're not flexible, I find I always have this little thing below my desk, right? So I'm always kind of, I can roll that heel, which is pretty dense tissue, especially because I walk a lot, and I'll roll the bottom of my heel against that under my desk a lot, right? And then I have other things under my desk, so I could actually get into the medial aspect too. And I'll show one more thing. We won't really get into this today as we approach the hour, but just to be aware of, remember how I was saying a nerve root can be affected? You know, you can see here that the certain parts of the spine and what can be affected from them, right? So this and this way, for instance, let's see. Yeah, so sacroiliac conditions, the sacrum, the coccyx, lower legs, right? So my guess is that from L4, L5, and then S1, this is where I'm experiencing the pain, right? So I could really look into, and I mean, some people find this kind of map useful because we could look at the problems that might be occurring and then work directly on the part of the spine and where it is. And we'll see it back through here again, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share. Stop. Share. All right. So what we would do is work those areas, work the lateral aspect. And remember, it could be all around this area here, right? Like I said, if someone has psoas, it'll start to go into here. It'll start to go back through here if it's piriformis, and then really detailing. It went into my thigh. So I went into the thigh before it gets into the knee area, because I was also having burning knees. That's completely gone too with it getting rid of the salt. That's completely gone, right? So I worked this whole area, came down and side into my thigh and into my knee. I also worked the inside, the medial malleolus around the backside here, and down into coccyx, sacrum, lumbar. And then I always do the whole thing for good measure. I usually feel pain at the level of the thoracic where my scoliosis is. In the hands, we come through here. Problem with the hands is it's just a little bit, the feet are stronger, I have found. But if you really can't reach them and you're alone in your house, you can access. You just utilize, it's like finger walking, but utilize all 3 or 4 fingers holding this side. So I'm stabilizing my wrist and I'm literally walking around this lateral aspect, right? And I'm working the palmar aspect and into the dorsum, this whole area here. Okay. All right. Questions about that? Was it clear? Oh, I want to say one more thing. If you have a hard time like lifting up your leg and put it in your lap, you could be sitting down like this and literally just go over to your side and use your fingers to go onto, like this is my foot right now on this side, and I can literally go down and press into this area using my 2 fingers, but I'm sitting in a chair like this. And that's an easy way if you're not somebody who can flop your foot onto your lap. That's not easy. That's not easy for me. I don't know. Some people can do that. So you can literally just do it that way. All right, questions about the reflexology or anything we've spoken about. We'll have to end soon. We're approaching the hour. Yes, Dotson.
I actually don't think I have a question. I think this was great. I really appreciate it. I have hip pain going back for 20 plus years, and these are some new tools. I have to go to my next meeting, so Chantal, I just want to say super appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dawson. So good to see you.
Yeah,
I'll see you soon. Bye.
All right, bye, friend.
Yay. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions or illuminations or things that came to mind that maybe I didn't talk about that you said this really worked for me that you'd like to share? Was it? Oh. Yeah. So, right. Nadine says, what about literally like rubbing the hip? Yeah, so I did a lot of this because the pain was so great. Actually, what I did, so I do have a massage therapy background. I'm still certified. It's not a practice I engage in because I believe in, reflexology is my way in. I'd rather get in through the inner body and through the nervous system than through fascia and connective tissue. But yes, I found the most effective thing was not rubbing, but actually I was almost like grabbing the tissue away, almost like you could envision like unadhesing that flesh, that stuckness from the bone. It was almost like I was trying to just pull it away to relieve some of that tightness and tension. I was getting very tight hamstrings, very tight quads. So pulling at the quad and the buttocks too, all those gluteal muscles where everything was seizing up because I was in so much pain. It was trying to protect me. So it was really seizing up. So I did do that. I did pull out. But nothing alleviated it. I did that every day, actually quite deeply sometimes, quite soft sometimes. I still couldn't sleep. I still couldn't sit. It wasn't until, and I know it's a big piece of my story, but it wasn't until I got rid of the inflammation, you know, doing a really good cleanse and then changing the way I ate that actually changed. Suction cups. Yeah. So this is something too, I really like that. And you could actually, it feels good to hurt the muscle. Yeah, that's what I was doing when she mentioned, you know, it's almost like you want to like really be with that muscle or almost hurt the muscle. Like, how can I really be with it? I did have the experience that it was relieving when I really pulled at that muscle, but it didn't make it go away. And this is something I think about often with massage and especially with deep tissue is, and I think about this a lot with pain too. We go into sessions. I can only speak for myself. In the past, I've gone into sessions and I've said, you know, it's okay. You could go deeper. I had people all my life in reflexology and also before in massage where people would say, it's okay, just hurt me. Just a no pain, no gain. You know, they're just like so okay with me hurting them. And I think this is something we get to look at in ourselves. Because it's been my experience that if someone goes deep, 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 the body doesn't entirely feel safe on a cellular level, even though the mind is going, it's okay to hurt me, no pain, no gain. On a cellular level, something is maybe not feeling 100%, I can do this. And also, the client, in my opinion, the person has to have a sense of empowerment and agency at all times. And they're the ones who get to open. They're the ones who get to open the heart, right? So all day long, I could open up somebody's chest, right? But if they're not ready, they're going to collapse in 2 days and they'll be right back where they started. So I get to instead really be with them in a way where my interaction with them says everything about safety, about that they're in a safe place, and I'm going to work with different parts of the body. I'm going to tell them where we are at every single moment, and their body then feeling like, okay, my nervous system can relax. I'm in a safe place, even though I just met this girl, and I can release and I can begin to open. So this is why I don't believe that I'm a healer or, you know, I'm doing anything. I'm literally like a facilitator. I'm creating space so someone else can open. And you mentioned suction cups. These are actually not too expensive and can be very interesting. You know, this kind of cupping, you get like little plastic ones and you get a little bit of, people use coconut oil or whatever, and you just suction it and you could rub it and just suction it and literally go back and forth on the skin can also be effective. Yeah, my experience too. Yeah, only feels good in the moment. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so you said reflexology focuses. Yeah, reflexology, it's not that it focuses on the nerves, but we're working with the nervous system. We're working with all body systems, but the way we take in information from our external world right now, I'm looking at a tree. There was a cat and a bird outside a little while ago. So cute. I'm taking in external stimuli via my eyes, via my taste, via my touch, via all the things. The way that's processed through my body is through my central nervous system. So when we apply touch to the reflexology map, the way that it's processed through our body is our central nervous system. That external stimuli, say it's touch, is going to go through and go spinal cord, brain, and the brain gets to make decisions about sensory and motor responses back to organs, glands, systems, or back to the world. So that's how it works through the central nervous system. Yeah. Yeah. And to point out, because Enid brought up earlier with the adrenal reflexology area, you know, there are two people often will put it through here. It's more of an energetic point if you're there. I like to put it right at the center of the mound here. you know, the problem with the hand map I find are the thumbs, right? Because if you really like, they're in the way there, right? Like it should be like this. This is the feet. But with these thumbs in the way, it distorts our map. So I think people often, all of us, I get very, it's confusing. And we're just about to finish the hand map. It'll be on Redbubble soon. The hand map, it's very difficult because it's like you're referring to all the maps. You're really trying to isolate, like, if this is what the guy was saying in England, this is what, you know, that they were trying to say is it's in the horizontal, in the vertical zone. Does it get, how far does it get? And the only thing I can think is if we were to really bring this in, this kind of distortion of the hand, it just slightly distorts so that we will see the liver kind of come down. We'll see the stomach kind of come down because of this distortion of the hand. So it's easier to map in the vertical zones of the feet. But if we really, really squish everything together, we're going to see that it curves right about there. So if I open back up again, it's in the center of my thenar eminence. And so that's where I place the adrenal gland reflexology area. And I always hold the backside. I love that. Yeah. Yay. So yeah, say it, Enid. It says, yeah. Unmute yourself, Enid. I want to see your hand in larger form.
Oh, there, yeah. Right. I would normally put it, I'd go solar plexus, right?
Yes.
And it's below the solar plexus. So I would put it, do you know where that line is?
Yes.
There.
Yes.
I don't know, lifeline or whatever it's called. I don't know. I would just put it on there, right? You know, which is near enough where you're saying.
Exactly. And I always feel exactly. It is, and what we believe, I mean, again, what we believe is so. Right. And so right. So the apex, right, where we see the solar plexus in traditional Chinese medicine, this would be also, you would this is where you would have the bubbling spring, right, which would be kidney, right? So it would make sense for you to come down and place the adrenal there along that same line. And I have seen maps that actually place things in line at the center and also at the level of the spine as well. In the feet, my adrenal, this is not a good map. Don't look at these things don't look at the words on the foot. But I usually place it right where that tendon kind of sticks out, right? That's where there's like a kidney here, and then where the tendon sticks out, you could almost feel into that adrenal. So it's between kind of 1 and 2. So then on the hand, this is off on 1, unless I bring it back and squish it into 2.
Yeah.
But then you have this whole horizontal line of which you're also, right? So if we're looking at zone therapy and how reflexology started, we're looking more into the zones and how we can affect the adrenals along that entire zone, horizontally or vertically. That's really cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Really good. This is why we need each other.
As a reflexologist also, as you I always teach it this, you know, that you forget the doctors, not forget the doctors, but because we need them, but forget the medication, you know, look at it and say, oh no, you need this, and this, take those and sleep for a week. You know, try something holistic and natural.
Yeah.
You know, far better. I mean, I've had pain since I've walked the hills of San Francisco.
Still, it's for a whole year. It still hasn't gone away.
No. Went to the doctor.
It's intense.
Went to the doctor, take all this medication, blah, blah, blah. No, thank you. In the drawer. Didn't want to know. My choice, not everybody's. Went to a chiropractor. Got some relief. But as soon as I stopped going to the chiropractor, back again. So, like you, rolling pin under my foot.
Yes.
You know, and can sort of achieve stuff when I need it.
I love this. And I really, really appreciate, I think one of the most powerful things we could do is speak from our experience. And it is known that everybody has their own journey and their own course. And like I said, there's a reason for Western, Eastern, Southern, Northern, all the things, all the traditions, for sure. But this kind of way of tapping into our body and saying what's right. And also with respect to timing, like there might be a time, my doctor's been trying to get me to have a certain procedure done, and I don't wanna, right? But actually, in going through that cleansing process, more of a holistic treatment, I've actually gotten to a point where I'm feeling into my body more, and I go, I got to get that test done. But I had to come to it my way. I wasn't ready when he told me a year ago or a couple months ago. But right now, my body is saying it's time. And now my body's ready to have not necessarily the procedure, but at least the test. And now I believe, because I came to it on my own through my heart, mind, body, spirit, whatever, I'm going to be able to receive that test in a good way. My body's not going to be stressed out and all crazed because somebody told me to do something. I came to it on my own. I listened to my doctor. I listened to my intuition, and now I get to make an educated decision. And so I just want to say thank you for, I think it's important that we always speak from our experience, because this is how we get to share and learn from each other. So thank you.
Of course. No, you're very welcome. Thank you for your ideas.
Yay. Okay. We just hit the hour. So we're going to be released into our days and nights. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for putting on the classes. You know, they're really appreciated. This is the first time I've actually had a chance to get to one, thanks to my clients. But yeah, it's great, and it's good to spread the word too.
Yeah, we need each other.
Yeah.
All right, much love.
You too.
Thank you. And yay.
Bye everyone.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.